Hey guys, welcome to what I think is going to be a fun video. I saw a similar idea on YouTube where picking like books based on emojis, and now I have like a few different things I want to do, but I instantly went to my Patreon and gave them a couple of different polls of books. I chose some emojis for some books and let them decide which one I was going to read. And this was a lot of fun. So throughout this video, there are 3 different polls that I've done, 6 books total. I'm going to be reading the winners of the polls. So for the first options, I had 2 books. I gave 3 emojis each. So the first option, I gave a rose, a scroll, and fire. That was the first book. The second one, I gave a camera, a hat, and a lion. And the rose, scroll, and fire were for the book Rose Fire. This is a fantasy story that I put on my TBR for June. Obviously something I would like to get to. So that was option number 1. The second one, the camera, hat, and lion, are for Mrs. Halifax on Safari. This is like a super fun, cozy espionage series. I think this is book 5 already. I really wish they would just put numbers on them. It says Mrs. Halifax is the American cousin to Agatha Christie's Miss Marple. Yes, I could see that, except instead of just mystery, Miss Marple's trying to like sit there and solve the mystery. Mrs. Halifax is like in there. She's undercover, always wearing a hat. The hat was a bit of a giveaway probably, but I couldn't not put it in there. So these 2 are the options, and the winner is, we have 63% is Mrs. Halifax on Safari. That means Rosefire had 36%, not too far away. So the first book I'm going to be reading in this video is Mrs. Halifax on Safari. Super exciting. I've been loving this. One of my subscribers and patrons, Ashley, is cruising through this series, and I'm always jealous and have FOMO when she's talking about the next one that she's reading. At the same time, I think there's only 13 in the series, and so I don't want to read them all right away. I want to space them out so I can enjoy my time and not have it be over too quickly, but I'm ready for another one. So these they're redoing them in new covers. I own the first book in the new cover, and then there's like 2 older editions. This one's not that bad. Like, I mean, I'm not saying this is a great cover, but a lot of the other editions have like an actual photograph of a hat and other things around it, and it looks really tacky. So this one's not so bad. So I'm going to be diving into this. We are finishing our page count reading challenge over on Patreon. We do this once a month. Everyone just picks a goal of how many pages they want to read and they try to hit it. I desperately need probably about like 100 pages left. So can I get 100 pages of this read tonight? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try. I got a few chapters into Mrs. Halifax. She's so much fun. So kind of understandably, because of the title, we're going to Africa, and this time we're going to Zambia, which is a country I don't really know a lot about. If we were to go a little farther south and go to like Zimbabwe or Botswana or South Africa, I would know more. Zambia, not so much. So she is supposed to go on a safari and pose as a tourist and take pictures of people, which, like, man, I wish I could get paid for a job like this, but knowing Mrs. Halifax, danger is going to happen soon. She doesn't seem to be able to go on a mission without getting kidnapped or Yeah, pretty much. I think she's always gotten kidnapped. Things always turn out in her favor, which is great. But we got a few rough patches coming, I'm sure. I always really enjoy Dorothy Gilman's writing style. And in this, there's a character who is talking about, well, he uses the word skullduggery. At least as scrupulous as can be expected when our business is to gather information by nefarious means, hit troublesome people over the head, and to indulge in other interesting forms of skullduggery. Fun. If you're gonna throw in the word skullduggery, I'm here for that. And then Mrs. Polifax, recalling certain people that she herself had been forced to hit over the head, did not comment. It was a very modest number, of course, but one of which she was sure neither her garden club nor her pastor would approve. Love me some Mrs. Polifax. So I'm only 40 pages in. As of right now, I am not hitting my page count reading challenge goal I set for myself. I set 1,000 pages for the, it's like an 8-day challenge this month. I always pick like a different number. Sometimes it's a weekend, sometimes it's a week. This time we're doing 8 days. I don't think I'll hit it, but I am enjoying the pages that I am reading. So I've made it to like almost halfway, and so far nothing has happened. But this is book 5 or so, and I know that I've liked the other one, so I trust something's gonna happen yet, but like a little more than halfway. Hopefully something happens soon. Even like the humor, there's been a few spots, but not a ton. So hoping it can pick up yet. Things are finally happening. Okay, it's getting late, but I finished Mrs. Polifax. Things happened. Things I enjoyed. Less, I think I'll probably give it 4 stars. Less enjoyable than some, but still really fun. Still want to continue with this series. Now, the next emoji, we had a tree, a skull, and a pickaxe, and I can't actually tell what this was. Oh, an owl, a crown, and a galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. And I'll tell you which book was for each. I just need to grab one. Okay, so the tree, the skull, and the pickaxe, I thought was good for mantles of oak and iron. We've got oak, so I did a tree, iron, I did a pickaxe, and oh, I did the skull because there's an airship pirate in this series. This is book 2 in the Turum archive. So that was that one. And then the second one with the owl, the crown, and the Milky Way is this book, which I incorrectly said the title in my book mail short that it did. Aliferous, maybe? This is a short story collection, so most of the short stories have something to do with birds, hence the owl. There's actually one that has a starling calls songs in the middle of the night, owls taking a young girl on a journey. So that's where the owl came from. A crown, because I think there's one about a princess. I looked at the titles of some of the short stories. So they have fairy tales, adventure, romance, whimsy, ending and things. And there was something that made me choose the crown. I don't remember exactly. There's quite a few. And then the Milky Way, there's one that's called like Stars in the Sky. So that's where I was going with that. And so these were the two options, and the winner with 76% of the votes is Oliferous. So my next read is going to be this like short story, and I think there's some poems in here too. Yeah, there's some poems, mostly short stories with a few poems. So this is what I'm going to be reading next. This was a gift from my patron Carly, and I'm really excited about this. So last night I read the first 3 short stories in here, and the first one started out really good. It was like had much more of a gothic element than I was expecting, and so that was a wonderful surprise because I love gothic feelings in books, and if you can portray that in a short story, that's a lot of fun. So one thing that I've started doing with like most of my short stories is keeping track of the star rating of each short story. So I'm putting a sticky note at the beginning of each short story. So the first one I gave 4.5 stars. And then like short stories, there was a variety. I gave one 3.5 and I think the other one 3. The one that was 3 was like super short, so it can be hard to develop a story in such a short amount of time. I originally got these cute little cat sticky notes from a pen pal of mine, and then I went and I bought some because I thought they would be perfect for adding to short stories. So some of them are like different retellings. The first one was a Beauty and the Beast inspired tale. The next one I'm going to read is Cole of Smith Harrow, and that's a Cinderella retelling. And this one is quite long. I think this one's like closer to like 40 pages, so longer than the others because I'm only on page like 29 and I've already read 3. Started this, enjoying it. Obviously different stories are different ratings, but it's a really fun collection so far. I love all the birds that have been included. Okay, continuing along, yesterday I read a few short stories. I'm enjoying them. I'm loving the addition of the birds in all the stories. Like that's obviously something in them all, and I love that. And then I also went over and read a bunch of the poems. So 4 of the sticky tabs are the poems, and I think I'm enjoying those even more. I mean, you've got poetry and you've got birds. This is up my alley. So yeah, there's 4 of them that I've either loved the entire poem or a portion of it, and I still have a bunch of poems left as well. Thoroughly enjoying this. I am going to the hair salon, not for myself, but for my daughter, and I thought I would bring this along so I can read while she's there. I did notice though too that the dust jacket is great. I love this, but underneath it there's actually a picture on there, a little nest with some eggs, and then there's a quote here, "Do you feel the sky calling?" I love that. I love when there's a little surprise underneath the dust jacket. So today my plan is to do more reading, and then my, what are these called? Bookends arrived from Amazon, just like your regular old library bookends, but I got them in white. Although I think they're kind of creamy, which is even better. I got 8 of them, 4 pairs. I'm going to use these on my bookshelf downstairs and try to figure out how I want to arrange all that yet. I might end up buying more of these. I'm going to see. The problem is the shelf sticks over from where the last like part is screwed in, so I don't want anything too heavy on the ends. Hence where I thought this would come in handy. So I still won't go all the way to the end, but can maybe hold more books with these. I'll figure it out. So reading, bookends, just a good time all around. Actually, I'll probably just keep the dust jacket off for going out because I generally don't like reading with dust jackets on anyway. And if it's gonna look so beautiful, then why keep it on? Okay, so finished the book, read most of the rest of it at the salon, finished it when I got home because I was really close and wanted to. I really enjoyed it, especially the poetry. We've got extra machinery noise today because now they're working in our yard. Anyway, what a great collection. As someone that loves birds, enjoys short stories, loves poetry, this is great. And thank you so much to Carly for sending me this book. It was such a sweet gift. Now, we are on to my third and final book based on emojis. So I will let you know what the emojis are for the next round here and what the winner is. So the first one, I had a magnifying glass, a person writing, and a newspaper, or like a writing hand, whatever, you get it. And for the other one, I had a phone, a broken heart, and a wheelchair. And so for the magnifying glass, hand, and newspaper, it's a chunker. Homecoming by Kate Morton. I got this from the library. So the reasons I picked those is because Kate Morton usually does dual timeline, historical mystery type books. Like this one is Christmas Eve 1959, something happens. I think someone gets murdered. And then years later, Jess is a journalist in search of a story. Having lived and worked in London for nearly 2 decades, she now finds herself unemployed and struggling to make ends meet. A phone call summons her back to Sydney, where her beloved grandmother, Nora, who raised Jess when her mother could not, has suffered a fall and is seriously ill in hospital. So the journalist, hence the newspaper, the mystery, because there's always some kind of like mystery in her books. I've loved a few of her books, and some of them have kind of been mediocre. I'm hoping this one's really good. I got it from NetGalley like a long time ago and just can't bring myself to read the ebook, so I got it with the physical copy. And then for the other emoji set, this is Something Good by Vanessa Miller. This has to do with a woman that causes an accident that leaves a guy paralyzed. So I think that kind of explains the emojis. I don't know if she was on her phone. I don't remember why I chose a phone emoji. But then the woman who caused the accident gets to know some people in this guy's life, and I think this book has, I read the back multiple times and I don't really understand it, but I think it'll be hard hitting but good. And so these were the next 2 options, and the winner with 73% of the votes, these were very swayed one way or the other. Like with 73% of the votes, Homecoming wins. The only thing is, like, this is a beast, but when I enjoy Kate Morton's books, I enjoy them. This is just over 500 pages, so if it's good, it shouldn't take me too long to read. So we'll be reading from 1959 and then like present day-ish. My favorite Kate Mortons so far have been The Lake House and The Forgotten Garden. And then I know I've read all of them. The Clockmaker's Daughter is my least favorite. The House at Riverton and The Distant Hours, and The Secret Keeper. I kind of forget about those. I think I read them all so close together. They kind of just all merged into one. Hopefully this will be like another winner. I just put a sweater on because we're going to the park right away, and it's like supposed to be summer, right? I mean, technically I think it's in a day or 2, but it doesn't feel like summer out there. I finished the prologue of Homecoming. Things are starting out very, very slow. But that's okay. I feel like Kate Morton has proved herself in the past, and I'm not going to force myself to read the entire book if I don't like it, because that's just setting myself up for failure. It wasn't bad. It was just slow. So we're going to go to the park, and I'm going to bring my book. I've made it up to page 107 and I'm feeling like I normally feel with Kate Morton's books. I usually feel like it's a good story, but it's about 100 pages too long and I'm only 100 pages in, so it's like the story's good, there's just a lot of other stuff and she will carry it through, I'm sure, but right now I'm slightly bored. So what happens at the beginning though, in the prologue, this man it's 1959 in Australia, riding his horse, goes through these grounds of his neighbor, sees a bunch of people having a picnic, goes to say hi and realizes they're all dead. And then we flip back to 2018 with our main character Jess. She has just got a phone call that her grandmother had a fall in Australia, and so she's flying from England to Australia. Not sure where things are going. Like well, she's now in Australia and just barely saw her grandma for the first time, and we're 100 pages in. It's a lot of pages for not a lot to happen yet. It'll take me a little bit more to finish it for sure. Enjoying the idea. Wish it was faster. Okay, so I unexpectedly got sick yesterday. After we got back from the park, I was really hot and then I got really cold. And I was like, maybe I'm getting sick. And then as supper came around, I was like, no, I'm definitely sick. Just fever, chills, whole body aches, throat is very sore, all the things. So, and like, just walking makes me so tired and makes everything more intense. So I've been sitting in bed and reading pretty much all of yesterday, afternoon, evening, and this morning. So in just over 24 hours, I read this entire book. I can't remember, I'll blame this on the sickness fuzziness. I can't remember if I even said what happened. Right at the beginning of the book, 1959, this guy is cutting across a yard to his house, ends up finding an entire family, or like a mother and her 3 kids dead. They were having a picnic and they look like they're asleep, they're just dead. And the baby that was in the basket is missing. And so this whole time we're trying to figure out what's going on. And Kate Morton does what she usually does. This one is definitely not going down as like an absolute favorite. She always retells the story, often from the same point of view, sometimes someone else's, and then adds like one more little detail. So we rehash the same things over and over and over again. And I didn't feel that way with The Lake House, or I think The Forgotten Garden. I can never remember if that's what it's called. I think so. Yeah. And because she has The Secret Keeper and The Forgotten Garden, and I always want to think like The Secret Garden, which is totally a different book. It was good. The ending was interesting. Like I eventually saw some things coming, but like after reading the same thing over and over and being given more clues. So I'll probably land on a 4-star with this. I just wish she would say what she says in less pages. It doesn't need to be that long, but this will be my over 500 page book for Tiffany's summer book bingo, which I'm doing really well on. I don't have a line yet, but I've got a lot of things marked off of there. So I will end this vlog here. Even like talking, I feel out of breath. I need to rest because we are going back to Saskatchewan this weekend. So my plan for the next day and a half is to rest as much as possible so that I can actually go. Thanks for joining me. I would love to hear if you liked the emojis for the books, like which one you would have picked. And if you have, like the emoji thing is fun. It's going to be coming up again really soon because I had so much fun with this. But if you guys have other ideas on how to use emojis for future reading, I would love to hear it.